Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Cash Part 1, a overview of cash. So a few things here in terms of cash and internal controls. So oftentimes in accounting, we will see in most lower division textbooks, they will talk about a cash. They'll have a cash and internal controls chapter. It's usually going to be tied in with accounts receivable. For lower division financial accounting, the purpose of going through and kind of introducing this chapter is to get you to understand how to do a bank reconciliation. So we're going to be going through and doing that at the very end of this video sequence. But for right now, let's talk about internal controls. So as we go through and look at our business, we want to make sure that we are safeguarding our assets. We have procedures and policies in place to make sure that cash is coming in and it's going to basically stay with the company. Cash is leaving the company and it's being done appropriately. When you hear about embezzlement, when you hear about theft, about fraud, a lot of times you can see this as a breakdown in terms of internal controls. Now, one of the things I've done is I went out and I kind of looked at the internet and I found some articles. I'm going to show the links to all these in the very bottom, but this is a great article just about a very basic, if you're a not-for-profit, 5 internal controls. And what I love about this is the first step is set the control environment. Let everybody know how important the control environment is, that you have to follow company procedures. If the CEO of the company is doing things and not following the procedures, then everybody else, why should they be following it? Another one over here is define who is responsible for what role. And again, you don't want to have like any kind of finger pointing, but you want to have it very, very clear in terms of whose responsibilities in an accounting environment, what everybody is supposed to be doing. Physical controls, locking things up, computers being locked into desks. This was written a little while ago. We obviously have like a lot of different things now. Password protection, and like you'll be watching this video 10 years from now going, Tchaikovsky, like, what are you talking about? We have some new system. So, but again, you want to have your items locked and of course encrypted. If there is cash involved, having more than one person count the cash together. And then this last part is where we're going to end up is reconciling the bank statement. And I cannot tell you how important that is. The reason why it's so important for accounting is that it's our way to verify the person who's recording the transactions. We are verifying that against an external document that's being provided by the bank. Okay. Now, when it comes to publicly traded companies, there are some extra protections. And this is because their stock is trading on the open market. After Enron in 2002, or actually Enron in, 2000, there was WorldCom. There's a lot of challenges going on, and there were some huge changes that came down under the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. And if you one of the results of that is that now this is Mr. Zukerberg, the CEO, chairperson of Facebook, and he has to basically certify that himself and the CFO, that they have gone through and that their internal controls have all these different safeguards, that they're designed basically to ensure that material information relating to the registrant, including its subsidiaries, is made known to us by others within those entities during the period under which the report is being prepared. So as a CFO, CEO, when I was a CFO, I had to sign this multiple different times. It's very, very important. Now, on another part of this too, do they have to be tested if they're a publicly traded company? The answer is it depends on how large the company is in terms of testing. I always like to call it the Accountants Full Employment Act. But when you're looking at internal controls, they are extremely important. And again, it's really about safeguarding the assets to really make sure everything's happening in the proper way. Another thing in terms of controls is that you also want to make sure that you have background checks. Can we do a credit check? Can we do a civil and criminal check? It depends. It's really going to depend upon the human resources law within your state. But one of the things for internal controls is that we want to make sure that we know who we are working with. If we are bringing in someone bad into our organization, that's not going to look good on our organization as a whole. So one of the things about cash is there are different ways, different alternatives to cash. One of those things is you can be accepting credit cards, but that does come at a cost. There are credit card fees. You also have to, if you are accepting credit cards, should you have the customer sign the receipt? I love going into Cold Stone and they make me sign the receipt. Other places don't really seem to care. So it just depends on the organization if they've had problems. But what you really have to make sure that you're doing is that as you're going through and accepting payment, and remember, your goal is to get the customer out the door as quickly as possible with their goods or merchandise. And if you've seen one time, and I'm sure it's changed by now, but when I was working in China, I went to a store and it was fascinating because you actually ordered the merchandise, you had to walk to another place within the mall and pay for it, and then they handed you the goods. But that was really because the landlords were taking a percentage of the sales. But again, the fact of, with American consumers, it's credit cards are really, really important, but it's also a good thing too, because if you're not accepting cash, you don't have to worry about certain things like robberies. I mean, it still could happen, but it's not as great of a worry. So if you are going to be accepting cash, we also have to remember the physical security of our environment. Is it safe for our employees? Do we have essentially armored personnel? Do we have appropriate safeguards? And if you are going to be accepting cash, that's when you really want to make sure that those that are accepting it, that we have gone through and made sure that they have the appropriate clearances, and that there's not a problem in terms of the credit history. I can tell you without hesitation that there are a lot of different, when you see the bad things that happen, a lot of it is because of a breakdown in internal controls. So I want to thank you here today for joining me. Please leave any questions you might have below. Appreciate you liking and subscribing to these videos, and I will see you on the next one. Have a great day.